Hello and welcome to our video, Caring for Students During Increased Immigration Enforcement. I'm Sarah Pletcher,
And I'm Marty Renteria.
and we are both concerned educators who have done extensive research on this topic, and we're going to share with you in a bite-sized version some things we can do as a community to take care of our students and families. Marty, who do you think that immigration enforcement impacts?
It impacts everyone.
Right, you are. It's obvious as educators that it's going to impact students who are undocumented, but it also affects students who are documented and are citizens who might be in a mixed status family. It could also affect students who aren't in immigrant families at all, but witness what is happening to their friends and the uncertainty and fear that's happening at school. It can also affect educators and staff as they witness their students going through it or who also might be in immigrant families. So, this immigration activity is really a concern for all of us.
There are different types of impacts on students, right? And there's a social emotional aspect. Socially, sometimes racist bullying comes out during times like this, where students are hearing so much rhetoric, oftentimes on social media, and it comes out with their peers. Also, emotionally, sometimes they're worried about their neighbors, their friends, their families being taken at any time of day. And so that brings a lot of emotional toll on our students. Even for students who are not in immigrant families, they witness, all these things happening around them. And studies have shown that immigrant students, regardless of documentation status, have increased internalizing of behaviors, often silencing or externalizing behaviors. Sometimes they miss out on after school activities um, because their families want to keep them home and safe. And so they stop participating in all these things. And oftentimes they don't even come to school at all. They stay in their home. Um, Families don't go to work, families don't go to school. It affects attendance.
I heard
Um,
that when ICE is in the area, it actually affects attendance for all students, that there's been studies that attendance goes down for everyone by several days when there's an active ICE uh, presence in the community.
Academically, students who are dealing with immigration fears are distracted in the classroom or unable to concentrate in class. And students are often feeling the family stress, right? Not only are their family members being taken, but also the stress of, who's earning money if my dad can go to work, how are we going to, pay the bills and deal with all of these immigration uh, documentation, immigration stresses that come about. So all of this adds to that family stress as a whole and to the stress of our children.
Let's
And
not
finally,
forget that about that physical health piece. We might not think about it, but 80% of our students who are in immigration families are documented. They have papers. They are either documented or they're citizens. They still lose out on services like going to the doctor, going for mental health, or even just facing hunger because of the poverty that they're facing when they lose a family member. They lose out on all those things because their families are afraid to ask for help. So, what can we do to help, Marty?
great question. So wherever you are involved with the community, definitely there are many steps that we can take either as a district, school, classroom, and across the broad community to help all of our students.
So, first, let's think about what we can do at a district level, at a systems level, to support our students. School is the bedrock of democracy, and ensuring that students and families know their rights is essential, especially because students are such a vulnerable group. School to protect and support their rights, even when others do not. So, that's why considering offering Know Your Rights trainings for everyone involved is so helpful. Social workers can also make a huge difference for families facing immigration-related challenges. Rather than serve as gatekeepers, they must be trained to identify trauma in students that are often silencing themselves and helping families connect to mental and physical health resources as well as supports for food and housing insecurity. teachers are the people with the strongest relationship and trust with students and families. They have to be empowered to share resources and know your rights cards with students. This doesn't mean they should be giving legal advice, they shouldn't, but everyone deserves to know their rights. Remember, staff cannot ask students and families about their immigration status per federal and civil rights laws. So, training for staff is essential to make sure they're supportive while also adhering to those legal protections. All students are entitled to an education regardless of immigration status per federal and state law. Having clear communication plan in the district will allow families and staff know where to go for resources and also develop more trust in the district. Having a trusted resources that families can go to find out about immigration enforcement and also schools policy will help alleviate stress and fear around this. Now, while attendance is very important in school, districts need to recognize that there are times when families are fearing for their safety and are unable to attend. Districts might consider ways to support students' learning when they're unable to attend school for immigration related reasons and avoid contacting authorities because that contributes to the school to deportation pipeline and diminishes trust in the school as an institution. Having clearly communicated protocols for when immigration enforcement is happening near schools is essential. The more students are involved in immigration enforcement events, the greater the potential trauma. So schools have to do everything in their power to prevent disruption to learning and decrease the stress of these events happening just outside school doors for students.
At the school level, we want to make sure that our teachers are centering our students' experiences in their classroom, in the curriculum, and that the students are feeling safe, included, and represented.
We talked about connecting families with resources. We also want to empower families and students to say what they need. We shouldn't make assumptions about that. So, asking families and students, how can we best support you right now, is a good move.
Also, giving teachers the permission to support students and families. Sometimes they may feel intimidated by um, talking about these topics, but giving our teachers that permission and that empowerment is going to do great things for our students.
And we can't assume that all teachers know about what's happening. So, professional learning for staff, know your rights, how to support students, these are all really helpful.
As was mentioned before, it, although attendance is so important, we know that a lot of our families are facing, um, fear when they go out into the street. And so avoiding punishing families for these absences is going to create trust with the school and it's going to make the family feel understood.
And the last two, we mentioned these before, but again, at a school level, so important to be connecting families to community resources and being vigilant about racially motivated bullying because there have been studies that show the greater the immigration enforcement, the more bullying around these issues happens in schools.
We already mentioned, but offering Know Your Rights for teachers, students, and families. This includes all the stakeholders in the school in a safe environment where people get to know what the rights are of immigrants.
Yep. And the next two are similar to what we mentioned at the district level, but schools can do this too. Having a clear communication plan for staff and families, what are our expectations? How are we handling this? And having clear protocols for when ICE is nearby or even tries to enter the building.
That's right. In addition to that, we want to consider alternate dismissal and arrival routines to protect families. So, a lot of families have fear about, again, sending their children to school or picking up um, or taking their children to school. So, having these alternate dismissal and arrival routines will help alleviate some of those absences that we're dealing with.
There's lots of ways to do that too, Marty. I know some schools have organized like neighborhood walking together or living school buses. I know some schools dismiss in different doors every day so that it helps to stagger things and families feel safer coming to pick up their kids. Um, we also want to consider not just alternative dismissals, but how do we do in-person events like conferences? If parents are afraid to leave their house, Can we offer Zoom? Are there other ways that they can still be in communication with us?
This next point is for us to join local rapid response social media groups or just groups in general. They provide validated information on local enforcement activity. And so that is going to be the fastest way to get information to the school and out to the families as well.
And when we know that there's confirmed activity happening, that's also really helpful because then afterwards we can check on families and students like, hey, how are you doing? We know that when we know there's activity right outside our door, our kids are affected, right? So it's good to check on them and see how they're doing after that.
And the final point is to teach students to distinguish false reporting. Just like we teach them to identify false information, false news, we want to teach them to distinguish false reporting. We don't want to be scaring anyone needlessly.
Well, and even if you're not at a district or a school level, in your classroom, you can make a difference to support students. And we have a lot of ideas and research around this. So, first, we want to create a safe and inclusive classroom environment. We want to find ways for students to have choice and agency. When looking into protective factors for students facing stress from immigration enforcement, one of the biggest things that came up was actually helping students who are feeling helpless and afraid have even just a modicum of choice in their daily life. So, helping them find a way to express themselves and make some choices.
Because a lot of our students are feeling fear and a lot of emotional dysregulation, we want to give them a lot of multiple means to express themselves in different ways, like such as drawing, theater, writing. That way we know that their feelings are being validated and we get to hear and see the different ways that they can express some of their emotions.
I think also avoiding harmful language and assumptions. We don't want to assume that students are undocumented. We can't ask, but we also don't want to assume. And we need to be really careful about the way that we're talking about what is happening and our immigrant community because our kids pick up on that.
We want to center their lived experiences in the curriculum. And that doesn't mean that we always have to talk about immigration, but we definitely should give a place to what our students are saying, what we're hearing from them, and give it space in the classroom.
One of the negative effects of immigration enforcement in the area is when kids do miss school, then they can fall behind. And there's been a lot of studies about kids falling behind in reading and math. So if you know kids are not coming for that reason, consider alternate ways for them to keep up with their work so that they don't fall behind because of that.
When students or families come to us as teachers, if they need things, we should be able to connect them to community resources. So feel the permission to share that with them. If you have this information, if you have the knowledge, share with your families and your students.
I think, when kids do come to you, you need to respond appropriately to those disclosures. If they're sharing with you family concerns or even sensitive information, right, you need to keep that private. You need to protect that. And then also, you can consider actually having events. Centro de Información will help you host parent events, information sessions, etc., for your class. So that's also a great way to connect them with what they might need in the community.
Mhm. Finally, it would be a great idea for you to stay informed, stay knowledgeable about these issues. You can participate in book studies, PLCs, bring these things to your teams, your colleagues. All of this would just make you a better educator.
And speaking of the book clubs, there's a few recommendations we could make. Surviving the Ice Age is a study of how ICE enforcement affects students and typical reactions that we can expect to see. Sanctuary School is actually an example of one school and how just little tweaks that they made to support their students. And drawing deportation refers to that suggestion Marty was talking about, where a school had an acting club and a drawing club to help kids process what was happening around them in their community.
So the first thing is to attend city council or town hall meetings. That those are great ways to not only get information, but also express your opinions and your concerns.
Yep. And also, there's a lot of groups that you can go to stay informed. Definitely visiting the Elgin Area Immigration Alliance website is a great resource. You can sign up for their emails. There's also the rapid response team in this area. And so if you see ICE activity, you can report it and then they will validate it, verify it, and let the community know.
Explore volunteer opportunities in the community. Definitely much needed during this time. And some people are seeking help with driving their students or their children to school, or I know of food pantries opening
And
up.
encouraging others to get involved too. So if you have these concerns, your family has these concerns, your neighbor has these concerns, talk to each other and connect with the Elgin Area Immigration Alliance because they are doing volunteer work on all different levels, and there's definitely something that you can get involved with a little bit of time or a lot of time. Your service will definitely support your neighbors. We mentioned Centro de Información. This is their contact information. This is great for all of us. So if we have students or families we want to connect, Centro de Información can connect them with all kinds of different services, and they have relationships in the immigrant community already. So that's a great starting point because they have trust in the area. In order to get a hold of these two groups, Elgin Area Immigration Alliance can help connect you with rapid response and volunteer opportunities, and Centro de Información can also support you in helping connect families with what they need.
These are long-standing community organizations that have a lot of trust in the community. So they're only here to help during this time, and it's a great opportunity to connect with them.
And finally, here are some resources that we used in doing research for this project.